So why did Macron call the snap election?
Well, it's a great question and really something only the president can answer. But as you say, it wasn't that much of a surprise looking at the numbers. So what Emmanuel Macron now is gambling on, or some are describing it as an audacious, bold step, is trying to consolidate his grip on power or give the electorate the choice of letting the National Rally, or putting the National Rally into a form of power in the French government. Could it be a return, Francine, of famous cohabitation that we last saw under Jacques Chirac in France in the 1990s, where you have a president from one party and a prime minister from another? That could be the scenario if the National Rally party came out on top and had a majority in the next parliament. Macron's party, although they are the biggest party in the current parliament, they don't have a majority, which makes policy making very difficult. We've seen Macron having to use his presidential override to get some laws passed by decree in France. So there has been a degree of policy stagnation under this administration since the last elections in 2022. So what Emmanuel Macron is doing now is throwing it open to the electorate and saying, you can make your decision. What we could end up with, and this is partly to explain some of the market reaction we've seen, is a situation where very little gets done indeed, which is the usual situation when we have a cohabitation situation with, as I say, a president from one party and a prime minister from another.
So, Stephen, what about the far right elsewhere in Europe?
Look, it's a different story in each country as well. You mentioned Germany there. Olaf Scholz, his party certainly taking a kicking with the worst performance they've ever registered in a European Parliament election, although it was the centre-right CDU that actually came out on top in the German European Parliament vote. The AfD, the far-right party there, certainly gaining ground and picking up seats along the way, and that's part of the story of the punishment of those parties that are in power in Germany at the moment. The Greens, notably, another trend that we're seeing across Europe too as well. If you look at Italy, the party of Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni doing extremely well, picking up a massive amount of the vote share compared to their last performance in 2019 as well. We've been discussing what this means for the European Parliament with the president of the European People's Party, Manfred Weber.
The key question is now, are we ready to come to a quick decision-making process? And again, as EPP, we are the winners, but we are ready for a reasonable compromise and a coordination in the center of the landscape to avoid that right extreme and also left extreme gets really influence in the European decision-making process. Europe must be governed from the center, and the EPP is doing so.
And look, all of the parties that are part of that centrist coalition very keen to point out that they did win. They maintained their majority. The three parties that supported Ursula von der Leyen to become European Commission President in 2019 still have a majority in the European Parliament. That bodes well for her as she's seeking a second term. But of course, that's in the gift of the leaders of the 27 members of the European Union. They're the ones that put forward a candidate to be voted on in Parliament. They're starting those discussions a week from today with their first informal dinner on the issue.
So, Stephen, the centrist coalition held. Does that mean that Ursula von der Leyen will get another term?
Not necessarily, and that's where it gets a little bit more complicated. So first of all, you have the European leaders factor. Perhaps they might choose somebody else, like they did when they were supposed to choose Manfred Weber in 2019, and Ursula von der Leyen was brought in as a surprise candidate. That's a likelihood, doesn't look very likely at the moment, but it is something that could happen. Then it's a question of whether Ursula von der Leyen can ramp up the support that she needs to get the majority, the 361 MEPs she needs to vote for her in the European Parliament. If you put the current parties together, she has it on paper, but not everyone in the European Parliament votes the way they're supposed to in these sorts of votes. So already we were having conversations last night with one of the Greens lead candidates, Bas Eickhout, as well, about whether or not they could support Ursula von der Leyen. He seemed open to the idea. Manfred Weber from the EPP less so, it had to be said. He pointed to some of the Greens' voting record on that as well. But the horse trading begins now. Ursula von der Leyen is meeting her current partners to try and secure their support starting today, and we'll also see a big reshuffle of some of the parties in the European Parliament as well that will shift the political landscape here in Brussels, and that'll be the next step to try and watch to see whether or not she can make it to that magic number of 361 when the European Parliament's due to vote in July.